In the beginning of story, the whole city screams out, and its citizens run for their lives after seeing an ambush of vampires proceeding to them. A mother hides her children in a wardrobe and tells them not to come out, but the vampires enter their house and instantly kill the parents. One of the kids slightly opens the wardrobe and sees the vampire's face, as she will remember it for the rest of her life. Suddenly, a young high school girl named Xiao Xin wakes up from her dream. She realizes that she accidentally asleep in the middle of the class. We see that some girls are talking to each other, how she offers her blood to Vampire Prince. Xiao Xin gets tired of listening to all of the vampires' tales, so she decides to leave the class. But a classmate asks her to give some papers to music class. She takes the paper and walks through the corridor, wondering why always me. On the other side, a young girl is getting bitten by a vampire, but he puts the girl down and says that her blood is pathetic. Meanwhile, Xiao Xin arrives at the room as she walks inside and sees the vampire. For your kind information, he is Roy Lopezt, known as the Prince. He invites her inside, but she runs away out of fear. But Roy easily catches her and throws her on the ground, and then comes on top of her. He says she is very courageous, as he never met with anyone who's ignore him like she did. He prepares to drink her blood. His eyes turn red, which brings back an old memory of her. She screams to stop touching her with his dirty hands. However, she raises her hand to snap her long, sharp nails, which give Roy a little cut on his face. In response, he compliments, as she has successfully made him angry. He then grabs Xiao Xin forcefully and starts dragging her out and brings to the terrace of the building. Well, basically, this is a school, and there, in front of the students, to take revenge, and declares her as his enemy until he is satisfied and stops everyone. All the students' eyes fall on Xiao Xin and the gossip all around regarding as she is going to die. However, inside a room, two mature vampires lady compliments Xiao Xin as she dares to offend their prince. Looking at them, they give evil vibes. Then we see another girl. I would not mind calling her cute. She says that the little woman doesn't seem to suit her appetite, but since her master Roy has spoken, she will accompany him. Roy then leaves her hand. At this moment, Xiao Xin mentioned this world where vampires and humans coexist, but humans are destined to be despised objects from the day they are defeated. Roy also explains that he hates humans' reasoning that they are greedy. While he sees Xiao Xin running to escape, he says that he hates humans also because they are cowards, that they can only escape reality and don't keep up with their promises. But that was not always the case. When he was young, his blood slave Flay, she promised him that she would never leave. But one day when he was looking for her, his brother told him that she had left him forever because it was too difficult for her to take care of Roy. However, he didn't believe and complains that his brother is probably lying. But Roy's brother tells humans and vampires have an impossible relationship. Sooner or later, the humans abandoned them, just like Flay did to Roy. But I don't think that this was actually what is seen. Something fishy must have been placed to somehow brainwash little Roy. Anyways, since then, Roy believes that humans are deceitful. Outside, Xiao Xin was getting ruthlessly bullied by some other girls for trying to seduce his highness. Xiao Xin tries to run away from them, but the girl catches her by the hair, which makes her fall. Seeing her long hair, Roy visualizes Flay. He wants to help her, but stops thinking that she will herself come to apologize to him. Xiao Xin getting forcefully put into getting her hair cut, and the girls laugh and enjoy doing this. Suddenly, Roy's assistant arrives at him, informing him about the chairman, who asks him to come to the meeting room as quickly as possible. Roy then walks past him, and his assistant questions him about his face scar. Roy puts his finger on it and hovers it over his scar, where his scar vanishes. Meanwhile, Xiao Xin runs away from there, saving herself, but some boys come in front of her. They also want the opportunity to do something naughty, and one of them puts his hand on Xiao Xin's shoulder, but she bites his hand and runs away from those boys and seeks help from others. But no one comes forward to help her. She soon realizes that her screaming is nothing but a failure, as each one of them is waiting for Xiao Xin's good show to be put in front of the whole school. While she is running, a girl blocks his way with an umbrella and falls down from the stairs, bumping her head severely, bleeding from her head, and then she faints. Later at night, Roy meets his friend Xin, who tells him Xiao Xin fell down the stairs and started bleeding from her forehead. An interesting Mesa took her along with some boy. Hearing Mesa's name, Roy gets shocked. Elsewhere, Mesa brings Xiao Xin is put into a strange place and handing her over to those three ugly boys. They slowly start coming near her, and I'm damn sure all they want to lose virginity, but the lonely prince comes there and stops them. Seeing Roy, they run away from there. Mesa also gets scared. She was doing all this to make him happy, but Roy ordered her to get away, ugly bitch, from his sight. She immediately leaves from there. Roy then goes closer to Xiao Xin and licks her forehead, like he also has some alternative motives. Later, Roy brings Xiao Xin to his palace and asks his servants to take care of her. Then he goes up where he somehow meets his older brother, who looks at Roy and asks him the reason about bringing the human girl at home. But Roy does not give him any answer. His brother wonders that he had put those people behind. Then why did he go there to save her? He asks him to stop being childish and take decisions wisely. Roy does not consider it necessary to give any answer to him. He leaves from there. Sometimes later, Roy comes to his room to check her condition. When he opens the door, he sees that the bed is empty. She escapes through the window. Then the scene changes, and we see that Xiao Xin running in the forest, followed by some bats on her back. She is looking for a way out. Suddenly, her foot slips and she falls down from the cliff, but Roy catches her. It's just like he has power of speed, same as Edward in Twilight. Anyways, the tree branch breaks, which he was holding the whole time, and they both fall down. Xiao Xin slowly opens her eyes and sees Roy saves her, but gets injured himself. She sees blood under Roy's body. She puts her hand in the blood and sees where it comes to her knowledge that vampires also bleed. Roy warns Xiao Xin to run away, as in his condition, he will not be able to stop himself from drinking her blood. But surprisingly, Xiao Xin takes out her shirt and calls Roy to suck her blood. After all, Roy saves her, so she offers her blood, but deeply, she regrets saying that she would rather die than owe vampires favors. Roy finds her behavior strange because earlier she was running to save her life, but now offering her blood. Roy then comes close to Xiao Xin, but does not drink her blood. So Xiao Xin asks Roy the reason for this. Roy simply says that it is more fun to torment her by leaving the vampire's favor on her. Xiao Xin tries to come out of Roy's arms, but he does not let him go away. Some hours later, Xiao Xin tried to get up to look for the exit, promising she wouldn't try to escape again. However, Roy told her that wouldn't be easy for a human. In a forest with miasma as dense as this, most humans would probably never return. If she wanted to stay alive, he needed her to follow him close. Walking together, Xiao Xin pulled her hand away. She was scared for her life, but disliked him touching her more. Holding her close, he felt her tremble non-stop. He liked her fearful expression, though. She pushed away, falling onto the ground. Roy offered his hand while reminding her what state she was in, but she just slapped it and ran away, where he looks at her with dead eyes, or like he is tired of all the chase. On the other side, when Xiao Xin is running through the forest with some kind of ghosts, suddenly, her brother appears in front of her, who accuses her of being friends with vampires. Hearing those words makes her faints and finds herself back in the same room, but this time, the windows have been closed. Xiao Xin scouts to open the door. Meantime, Roy comes and commands the maid to open the door, and when the door is open, Xiao Xin quickly tries to run away. Unfortunately, Roy grabs her by her arm and throws her back on the bed. She cries and begs to be left alone and be sent back to her home, but Roy simply asks her to become his blood slave. If she refuses, he will make her brother his blood slave. The next morning, we see Xiao Xin brother's Xiao Ling coming out of his home. A few women compliment him, asking how come he has came out so early today. He smiles and replies that today his sister is coming back, but his face suddenly becomes unhappy when he hears about her sister being a student in the capital school. Xiao Ling only has a few days to live, as he has a terminal heart disease. In fact, he is the reason his sister has to go to a vampire-owned school on a scholarship so that she can save up for his treatment. As he is waiting for his sister, a girl comes near him and tells the vampire prince has taken his sister with him. Meanwhile, a maid comes to Roy and tells Xiao Xin is not eating anything, and it's almost 2 days since she last ate something. Roy immediately goes to Xiao Xin and yells that he won't let her go anyway, even if she won't eat anything. Poor Xiao Xin, who lays on the bed, begs to let her go her home just for today. But a servant interrupts him and says that Miss Du's brother has arrived and he is begging to meet with him. Xiao Xin gets up with a frightened look as she wonders why did Xiao Ling came her. Anyway, then Roy grabs her arm and tells her that it is as good as he appears since she already wants to go home and she should be happy with it. She resists and hesitates because she knows even if she wanted to see Xiao Ling, Roy shouldn't let her see or else he will spit on her. As for her dream, where she saw Xiao Ling saying that it's disgusting, she mentions that she will never make her nightmare become a reality. Roy also is confused. He then pushes her towards the wall to hide behind a curtain and see everything. Later, Xiao Ling is brought in as commanded by Roy, and just when Xiao Xin sees her brother, she tries to come out. But quickly, Roy's servant grabs her, saying that she is not allowed to leave like this. On the other hand, is meeting with Xiao Ling and asking him if he is Xiao's brother and what can he be at service. Xiao Ling kneels down and starts begging Roy to forgive his sister and let her go. Roy gets shocked and says that he thought Xiao Ling would have the same backbone as his sister, but it seems like he has been thinking too much. Xiao Ling says that if his sister did something wrong to him, he is the one who is to apologize to him. Xiao Xin understands what Xiao Ling is doing. He is serving his own body in terms of hers. However, Roy asks her to get up Xiao Ling, but he starts taking heavy breaths and falls unconscious from his illness. And Xiao Xin goes running toward him. Roy immediately commands his servant to hire the best doctor in the state. Later, the doctor gives him an injection, but the doctor says that the rescue was timely and now his condition is temporarily stabilized. He tells them to hospitalize him, and as expected, Roy arranges for it all after seeing that her brother is safe. Xiao Xin feigns from weakness herself. Once she wakes up, Roy once again offers her food. However, Xiao Xin's hands start trembling, so Roy grabs the bowl back and tries to help Xiao Xin eat as he gives her food. While he gives her the food, Xiao Xin wonders that he is not the only vampire she hates the most, but he is the one who is causing all of this. However, why does he always have to be gentle to me? After eating a bit, she goes to visit her brother at the hospital. Xiao Ling says that he is fine now, but feels sad. He embarrassingly lowers his head and says that why is he so useless? Even their mother and father were killed by vampires, and at college she is suffering so much for him. Hearing this, Xiao Xin hugs him and says that it is not his fault. Whatever happens, they will bear it together. And that's when the vampire prince sees that she can actually smile too. He then tells her that it's time to go, and she quietly comes to him without any drama. The surprised prince inquires about the reason, and the girl curtly answers that she is grateful for what he has done for her brother, and that she won't run away now. She agrees to become his blood slave. In return, she just wants them not to put a damper on her freedom. At night, Roy stands on the terrace of his palace, and he is asking about the person who has informed Xiao Ling about her sister. The other man standing beside him says he has a crush on this Cinderella, but Roy ignores that bullshit and commands him to keep an eye on her 2 siblings. The next day, she goes to school, and there are 2 ugly girls seen gossiping and whispering about the prince himself went to rescue the woman. The other girl says and asks if they should teach her a lesson. They call her from her back, and Xiao Xin turns around. She is snapped and thrown, but this time Xiao Xin fights back the ugly girl. She raises her hand to give Xiao Xin a slap. She is suddenly surprised when Xiao grabs her arm and says that her compromise has limits, but the other girl comes from her back and grab her like she is pro. This moment, she took out the paper cutter out, and suddenly someone from her back comes and grabs her arms. He comes and introduces himself as Senai. a member of the discipline committee. The girls stood frozen in shock as Senai appeared before them. He coldly warned them to leave immediately, or he would take action against them. Terrified by his words, the girls scattered and ran away, trembling Xiao Xin. Thanks Senai for his help, but when he noticed the wounds, he gently took her to the infirmary. While treating her injuries, Senai spoke softly, saying that if he had known about the bullying earlier, he would have protected her long ago. However, Xiao Xin hesitated, worrying that getting involved would only cause him trouble. Senai simply smiled and told her there's no trouble at all. Humans ought to help each other. Hearing someone finally willing to be on her side left Xiao Xin stunned. Later that evening, Xiao Xin walked out of school with Senai. The other girls gossiped behind her back, whispering how first she had gotten close to their handsome prince, and now she was hooking up with a member of the disciplinary committee. Seeing her uncomfortable, Senai lightly patted her head and told her not to pay attention to them. Just then, Roy glanced down at them from the window, his expression darkening. Without warning, he came over, grabbed Xiao Xin's hand and pulled her away. He silently took her back home, throwing her onto the bed and jumps on her. Holding her face close, he muttered, "I can do whatever I want with my blood servant." But suddenly he noticed the marks on her face and asked, "Who hit you?" At first she resists, but then tells him thanks to him, entire school, now her enemy. Hearing this, Roy feels guilty. Without another word, he gently licks her face to heal them. Then, as a punishment, he ordered her to take off her clothes. However, seeing her struggle, he softened and told her it wasn't necessary this time, since it was her first offense. But he warned her seriously if he ever saw her with another man again, he wouldn't tolerate it. The next day at school, Xiao Xin wandered down the corridor. Her mind contemplates about Roy's command. Suddenly, Senai spots her. She tried to avoid him, but he stopped her, grabbing her wrist. He asked if Roy had done something to her. Xiao Xin avoided the question and told him to stay away. But Senai noticed the bite marks on her neck, and without saying more, she hurriedly walked away. At night, Xiao Xin went to the palace and sees Roy lounging on the sofa with a glass of wine. He looked at her and casually asked about her day. She replied that she did nothing to violate the agreement, but Roy pulled her onto his lap, holding her close. He said, "You're mine. I can do whatever I want because you are private property." As a reward, he took her outside and began teaching her how to dance. When they actually start dancing, Roy looks at her and says that if she dare to step on him, she will surely be dead. Roy compliments Xiao Xin's dance. She says her parents used to dance like this. Roy then informed her about the upcoming vampire ball next week, where they both have to dance together. Hearing about other vampires made Xiao Xin panic and she ran away. Suddenly, Roy's friend teases him about how he is really taking care of his new blood servant, to which he doesn't really have a reply. Then the scene changes. We see that she runs to a fountain where she thinks desperately about her going to the vampire party. Suddenly, a man comes from behind and asks what she is doing out like this. Thinking it was Roy following her, she turned only to see Roy's elder brother, who touches her hair and says that it is indeed a bit like that bitch blood servant before. He then pushes her into the fountain. He tells her that Roy likes her because she looks like his previous blood servant, and he forbids her from getting close to Roy. But Xiao Xin says she also doesn't want to be close to any vampire. At that moment, Roy arrives and stops his brother. He takes Xiao Xin out of the fountain. He draped his jacket over her shoulders and took her away. In the meantime, Xiao Xin's heart starts getting restless. She does not understand the reason for Roy's kindness. Later, back at the palace, Roy warned her not to run away like that again, and especially to stay away from his brother. He ordered her to stay in her room and keep practicing her dancing for the upcoming ball. As Xiao Xin slept, she sees a strange dream where her mother and father talking to a girl who exactly looks like Flay. The girl smiled gently and introduced herself as her elder sister. The next day at school, a student approached Xiao Xin, telling her she had received a phone call. When she answered, it was the doctor who informed her that her brother's condition had suddenly worsened and urged her to come to the hospital immediately. Panicked, Xiao Xin rushed to the hospital, but she doesn't have permission to leave the school. No matter how much she pleaded or explained her brother's situation, they coldly refused to help her. Just when she was about to give up, Senai appeared and asks her, "What's the problem?" After hearing about Xiaoling's condition, he tells her that even if he is a member of the disciplinary committee, he can't help her. However, he revealed one possible way out, that every noble vampire carries their family crest. He then suggested her to steal Roy's family crest and use it to get out of the school, but Xiao Xin immediately rejected the idea. She wanted to ask Roy directly. She hoped he would help her if she explained the situation, but Senai warned her seriously. If Roy refuses, you may never get another chance to see your brother. But Senai looks fishy, and I think he also has some dirty thoughts of her. When Xiao Xin asks him why he's helping her, Senai hesitated, then tells her that he once had a friend who suffered the terrible fate of dying because she was bullied by the vampires. He doesn't want that scenario to repeat again. Hearing this, she thanked him and made up her mind. Later, she went to Roy's palace, determined to talk to him. She spotted him outside and gathered her courage to speak with him. However, when Roy sees her standing there with a strange look, he lifts her chin up and asks if she is wanting something. First, she has to address him as her master. Xiao Xin thinks he's just treating her as a toy, and he will never listen her request. Well, I think he's just trying to molest her. Xiao Xin didn't know that she then explained her brother's worsening condition, but before she could finish, a servant interrupted, reminding Roy he was running late for an important meeting. Without listening to her completely, Roy walks away, leaving Xiao Xin standing alone, feeling helpless. Left with no choice, she slipped quietly into the palace and managed to steal the crest. As she hurried back out, she ran into Senai again, who offered to accompany her to the hospital. As they left the school together, Senai noticed suspicious figures following them. He decides to deal with them and tells Xiao Xin to go ahead to the hospital on her own. Xiao Xin rushed to the hospital with everything she has, only to find her brother completely fine. Her worries washed away as she hugged him tightly. However, when she checked her pocket, Roy's family crest was missing. Xiaoling asks her what happens, but she decides to not tell him the whole situation, so she lies to him that she intended to give him candies, but somehow she has lost them. After that, she decided to go back and search for the badge she had lost. On the way, her mind kept going back to how Senai had manipulated her. At this time, someone from her behind walks up on her, and she looks back. Being afraid it is Roy who has come to her, he asks, why is she out this late at night, and how come she even left the campus? Xiao Xin hesitated to tell him about Senai, or just to lie and risk complicating things. But in the end, she honestly tells Roy about Senai, how she stole his family crest, and apologizes to him. Surprisingly, Roy understands her, and he immediately ordered his servants to search for the crest and look into the disciplinary committee member Senai's background. He was clearly suspicious of him from the beginning. After that, he decided to punish her. He grabs her hand, pinned her against a tree, and starts biting Xiao Xin. At first, he sank his fangs into her neck and sucked the blood out of her, and then from her breast, Xiao Xin feels the pain and tearfully cries, but resists herself from it. But Roy didn't stop there. He was biting her even more, and Xiao Xin thinks about her life becoming a mess just after she met with Roy. In the end, she will become an abandoned toy, which he will throw it away. But at least she wants to help, so she begs to be given the chance to let her find his crest back, as she owns the responsibility. Roy seemed a little impressed by her willingness to make up for her mistake. However, as far as she could speak, she became dizzy and fainted from blood loss. 2 days later, she woke up in her bed and immediately searched for Roy. She was shocked to learn the badge still hadn't been found, and the vampire ball was tonight. So she stepped outside where Roy's friend Xin comes up on her in a car, and he asks her why she is in such a hurry. Xiao Xin have some idea who's this man, since she has been looking him around the mansion, so she tells him she is going at the vampire ball. So as a friend of Roy, Xin offered her a ride to the ball and even suggested a makeover to help protect Roy's noble reputation, to which she agrees and gets in his car. On the other hand, Roy was stopped at the gate of the ball for his badge, but he gets angry and looks at him with dead eyes at the receptionist for not recognizing him. Despite him being a candidate for the Council of Elders, the highest rank a vampire noble could achieve. Other vampires mocked him mercilessly, questioning his ability to lead when he couldn't even keep track of his own badge. At that moment, Xin arrives at the party, and out comes Xiao Xin in her beautiful dress, looking like a true noble lady. On the hand, the vampires continue to mock him for losing the badge and tell him that he has no chance to get into the Council of Elders if he can't even protect his badge. In response, with just telling them to get lost from his face, suddenly Roy is called by council to explain his incompetence, to which he replies that it's a plot to threaten his position and status as a candidate for the council. He boldly declared that he would retrieve the badge and prove that he is indeed perfectly in control of the situation. Meanwhile, at the party, Xiao Xin confronted Will, who was impersonating Senai. Senai tried to act as if he didn't know her and complimenting her looks, but she didn't let up. Eventually, he dropped the act and told her straight. Now that Roy's council seat was slipping away, so he was no longer useful, he urged her to join him instead, but Xiao Xin flatly refused him. And just as he is about to suck her blood, out of nowhere, Roy appears there and warns him to keep his dirty hands away from his woman. Seeing Roy with a romantic scenario, Xiao Xin feels butterflies on her belly. Then a council member named Leonard also stepped in, and right then, Will dropped the stolen badge from his pocket. At that moment, we see a flashback of Xin and Xiao Xin in the car, where he shows her that he has found Roy's badge in Senai's room. Xiao Xin didn't believe it and tried to defend Senai, saying he only did it in revenge for what vampires had done to his family. But Xin starts laughing, revealing that Senai himself was a vampire from the northern region. He was just pretending to be a human to get close to her, just to use her and frame Roy. Hearing this, Xiao Xin gets embarrassed and decides to help Roy. She asks Xin what can she do, so Xin hands over the crest and tells her to approach Senai and quietly put this in his pocket to catch him red-handed. At present time, Leonard took Will away to stand trial before the council. Senai is insisting and continuously blaming Xiao Xin being the one who is framing him. But Roy pulls Xiao Xin towards himself and says that Xiao Xin is not one of them and no one is allowed to slander her women. That's when Leonard dismissed Will from the city, ordering him back to the north. After that, everyone dispersed, leaving Roy to spend some private time with her beloved blood servant. He then takes out Xiao Xin near the fountain and tells her that he brought her out because he thought she might feel uncomfortable around all the other vampires. Xiao Xin touched that he noticed. She praised him, and that flustered him more than he expected. Then Roy starts dancing with her. She then expresses her concern for Roy and asks him in future more people would try to target him like this. So Roy turned the question back on her. Are you worried about me? Caught off guard, her feelings betrayed her, setting the perfect mood for their long-awaited kiss. Guys, tell me in the comments box who thought Roy will do that. And I think Xiao Xin also has feelings for Roy from the very beginning. But we are not the only one who's watching this lovely scene. Someone is also watching this and is none other than Mesa. In the middle of their romance, Xiao Xin stopped and she felt someone watching them. But Mesa's heart broke because she is in love with Roy. Roy then took her home, saying, the vampire's party was basically over. From a first-floor window, Roy's brother and Leonard watched the scene unfold. Leonard admitted he only got involved because Roy's brother asked him to. Their conversation ended in an unexpected kiss, hinting that their bond was more than just friendship. I think they are gay. Back at Roy's mansion, Roy brought Xiao Xin into his room, and now they lay together on his bed, Roy top of her, his gaze fixed intently on her face. Are you sure you're okay with this? Confused, Xiao Xin wonder that he will only drink her blood, but Roy again does the same thing. He puts his hand on her chin, holds it, and leans in, capturing her lips in a slow, deliberate kiss. There was something different in it. Not hunger, not dominion. She didn't know what to make of it, but something closer to longing. As the night wore on, the line between master and servant began to blur. The next morning, Xiao Xin wakes up from her sleep. She sees Roy beside her on the bed, already awakened and looking at her. However, she quickly gets up and says to him, why is he on her bed? Roy in response tells her that it is his bed. He, with his flirty eyes, asks Xiao Xin. She doesn't remember what happened the last night. He starts complaining that she fell asleep in the middle of it and that he didn't actually get to the good part. He then proceeds to pamper her by feeding her from his own hands and telling her that she needs to patent up a little as her vitality is so low that she can't even survive 2 bites from a vampire. She remembers the incident and gets clustered much. To Roy's amusement, then the pair goes to school together with everyone's gazes fixated on them. Avoiding all the gossips, Roy casually drops her off at class and tells her to wait for him to go back. The girls in the class also try to get close to her, but she refuses their offers to socialize as she knows how shallow they are. A few hours later, Roy once again finds her dozing off somewhere in the balcony and takes her home in a hurry to show her something. As they reach home, he shows her a wardrobe full of pretty clothes and dresses her up in a brand new uniform, telling her that she doesn't need to take any insults from the girls at school. She refuses all of these, and once again, she tries to play, but Roy once again forces her back against the wall. But this time, Xiao Xin quickly backs him up and says to not do anything. She contemplates if this thing continues like this, she will have no other way out. But Roy didn't care and kisses her. He then makes her promise that she will kiss him at least once a day, or he will think of a new punishment for her still not recovered from all of this. The next day, Xiao Xin wakes up only to find Roy's older brother by her bedside, grinning like a devil how she is being pampered by his little brother. Roy's brother continues his sharp tongue. Don't get too comfortable. He tells her that she is nothing more than a substitute for Flay Roy's last blood servant. This words hit her like ice water. She goes in a daze, thinking that it all may have been just a misunderstanding. She just been a replacement from the start. Roy did just a reflection of his past? Was she just a shadow of someone else? After that, he leaves the room. The next morning, Roy enters and tries to get close to Xiao Xin, but she has other plans. She asks him directly, "Am I just a replacement for Flay?" Hearing those words makes him angrily push her back and asks who allowed her to mention that name in front of me, and then he leaves the room. Xiao Xin felt as frustrated as she thought. Turns out that person named Flay has a special place in his heart, so all this was a misunderstanding. Then the scene changes, and we see Xiao Xin walking inside her school, where her class fellows pass some comments saying, "Didn't His Highness go to school with her today?" Another girl added, "His Highness is so busy, he can't always be with her." But Xiao Xin thought she could bear everything just for little brother Xiao Ling. 2 days later, Roy came to the school, but he completely ignores her. Even when they cross paths, Xiao Xin finds herself unable to speak, torn between anger, confusion, and her unresolved feelings for Roy. One day, Xiao Xin receives a letter that appears to be from Roy. She thought this must be a prank, but clinging to a small hope, she goes to the place mentioned in the note, but only to find the same bully girls from her class waiting for her. They mock her, and one of the girls attacks her. Then the girls gang up and start tying her to an iron bar and said, "Let's play with these toy handcuffs," and leave her in the dark. After a while, she senses someone approaching and hopes it's Roy, but it turns out to be Mesa. Smirking cruelly, Mesa taunts Xiao Xin. "No one here cares about you anymore. Does it matter if you die?" Xiao Xin felt scared and asked her, "What do you want?" Mesa then leans on Xiao Xin's neck and starts sucking her blood. Xiao Xin felt helpless and struggled, but Mesa enjoyed it and said to her, "No one will come to rescue you. Hurry up and give up." Suddenly, she got attacked by a mysterious man from the back. She looked at him and angrily asked, "Who are you? How dare you to attack me?" She tried to attack that person, but he dodged it. As he's about to free Xiao Xin, Roy and Xin arrive on the scene, prompting the stranger to make a quick escape. Roy then rushes to Xiao Xin's side, holding her in his arms and whispering a wish for her survival. Later, Roy takes the injured Xiao Xin to the hospital. She had lost a lot of blood, but now she's in stable condition. As she's sleeping, Roy remains by her bedside. When Xin enters the room, he advises him to rest, saying the doctors confirmed she's out of danger, but Roy refuses that and asks about Mesa. Xin explains that Mesa admitted to drinking Xiao Xin's blood, but was stopped by the mysterious man with the silver dagger, a weapon that raises serious questions. Sometime later, Xiao Xin wakes up and sees Roy beside her bed. Then he asks her, "How do you feel? Are you still feeling pain?" But she said, "No, I'm actually fine." He got close to her and asked her, "Really? Then why are you crying?" "I didn't do anything that would make you cry, or I was so cold to you." She replies with a trembling voice, "Why did you come to save me? It will be fine if you just leave it alone." Roy tells her because you are my blood servant and then kisses her. He tells her recently she have not even been willing to bite me, but that ugly bitch Mesa dares to bite you. Wait, I think Mesa is cute anyway. Roy leaned forward and again her while playing with her lips and neck. She questioned him, "I am just a substitute." But Roy grabbed her cheek and said to her, "The person next to me is not someone else, but you. This is my reality." Elsewhere, we see that person who attacked Mesa and a sexy lady who's asking him if you want to enter Lopez's academy. First, have fun with me, then she will help him. The next day, Xiao Xin woke up fully recovered. She asked Roy for permission to leave the hospital and get some fresh air. Though hesitant, Roy agrees, but insists on going with her. Outside, they hold hands, enjoying the calm. Xiao Xin worries about not telling her little brother where she's been, but Roy reassures her to think only of him now. On their way to a restaurant, a starving human boy tugs at Roy's clothes, begging for food. Alarmed, Xiao Xin quickly pulls Roy away, afraid of what he might do. But when they reach the restaurant, she watches in awe as Roy instructs the manager to feed the boy. Her heart softens and thinks Roy is different. He's not the cold vampires that she once feared. After their quiet meal, Roy drops her off at home and heads off with Xin for work. Before leaving, Xin comforts her, revealing that he's a half-human, half-vampire, and that toy doesn't discriminate. He teases her by asking if she wants to know about Roy's past. Her mind flashes back to Roy's elder brother's cruel words, accusing her of being just a stand-in for Flay. She hesitates, but Xin playfully says it's better she hears the truth from Roy himself. He bids her good night, leaving her deep in thought. Later, as she lies in bed wondering about Roy's true feelings, he then suddenly appears beside her, startling her. He jokes about forgetting something and teases her for laughing at him, then reminds her that they missed their one kiss a day promise. So he gently pins her down and kisses her, making her heart race. Despite all her doubts about who he really is and what she means to him, she lets go for the moment and melts into his arms. As the days pass, Xiao Xin has fully recovered, but she's still under hospital care. Since Roy is busy, she stays with Xin, who has been keeping her company, but her exams are approaching, and as a scholarship student, she can't afford to miss them. After getting Roy's permission, she returns to school with Xin, escorting her at all times, as ordered by Roy. As they walk through the campus, students whisper behind their backs, accusing Xiao Xin of switching masters too easily, just like the clothes. Xin quickly silences them with a sharp glare, realizing that this is exactly why Roy assigned him to protect her. Offhandedly, he mentions that Roy is investigating blood hunters, piquing Xiao Xin's curiosity, but he dodges her questions and changes the subject. In the exam hall, Xiao Xin stays focused in her exam. She remembers how Roy has been paying for her brother's medical expenses, and she knows she must do her best, not for herself, but to repay him somehow. Just then, a girl nearby raises her hand and accuses Xiao Xin of cheating. Xiao Xin gets scared hearing this, and to her surprise, the teacher finds a cheat sheet on her desk. She tries to explain herself to the teacher, but the teacher doesn't listen to her. Just when things seem hopeless, Roy suddenly appears in the hall like a Korean drama star. The teacher freezes at the sight of the vampire noble. Roy sees Xiao Xin's distress and decides to take a bold step. He leads her up to the school balcony, the same place where once he'd allowed her to be bullied, and declares in front of everyone that Xiao Xin is his official blood servant. Wrapping his arm around her shoulder, he makes his claim clear. She realizes that Roy is doing this to protect her. This bold move makes Xiao Xin fall in love with Roy even more. Then she whispers that this goes against tradition, but Roy simply smirks and says, "Someone always has to be the one to break the rules." Down below, all the students, my crush Mesa, the sliver knife mysterious man, and Roy's older brother watching the drama, they all are shocked with Roy's speech, so where the story started, it ends at the same place. That's the end of today's video. If you want the continuation, leave it in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel with the bell activated so you don't miss the next anime. Stories, leave a like, it will help the channel a lot. I really appreciate it, guys. That's it. We'll see you on my next video. Bye.